Hi, I'm Nick Steele. I host the morning show on 99.5 The Wolf in Portland, and this week I talked to Jenn Hobby about how to lead a morning show, and you can see that video right here, and it's got a ton of great information if you ever plan on hosting your own morning show, or if you're currently hosting a show and maybe don't know how to deal with, being the lead. She's got a lot of great advice in that video. This one, we're going to talk to her about her journey, how she started, as an intern, like a lot of us did, and moved on to a syndicated morning show like The Burt Show, and then has now established herself in this market that she's been in Atlanta for over 20 years. She's now the host of her own morning show. Jenn was actually the first person I had on How to Radio that I didn't know before I started this whole YouTube thing. So I was super excited and kind of nervous to get to know her. I reached out. Thankfully, she said yes. She's a 2-time Gracie Award winner, so I was super stoked to get her on the show for you guys to meet and greet if you don't already know her. So this is Getting to Know Jenn Hobby on How to Radio. Do you remember the first song you ever talked into?
Oh, that's such a good question. Okay, first song I ever talked into. I remember the first station.
Okay.
It was the 80s, 90s, and Today in Athens, Georgia. And it was called Magic 102. So I do remember having to say the tagline just perfectly. And I had practiced it all day long in my car on the way there because I was living in Atlanta, but driving to Athens on the weekends to do a weekend like Sunday afternoon shift. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever.
Of course.
And so, so I practiced it over and over and over and over again. And then when I finally heard my own voice in the headphones, over the song, I was like, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing.
How did you get started to get even on that weekend show? Did you go to school, or where did the passion for radio start?
It started when I was in college. I was a communications major. I knew I wanted to do something in the broadcast industry. And I started interning at a station there that was X101.5. And it was kind of when alt rock was happening and that whole scene was exploding. And I got an internship there, and it was just the coolest thing. I loved it so much. I loved how creative the jocks there were. And they let me come in and hang out during the afternoon show or during the morning show. And I just did whatever I could to spend as much time there as possible. It's like I just got the bug. I loved how free form they were, how they were connecting with their audience. They could take live calls, it wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
It was so exciting to me to be just a part of it. And then, of course, all the station events and being connected to music and artists and stuff. It just was so exciting at the time. And I just got the spark with that very first internship, and it was a cluster of stations. I don't know if you remember back in the day, J-Core Broadcasting, which eventually became Clear Channel, which eventually became iHeart. Huh. But it was J-Core Broadcasting, and they had several stations in the cluster in the town where I went to college in Tallahassee, Florida. And so they had a oldies station, a sports talk, a country, a smooth jazz, and then the rock station. And so I jumped on board their promotions department, and I went to every basketball game and concert and oldies doo-wop picnic that I could possibly be a part of, and really got a sense for a whole bunch of different formats in that very first experience with radio.
And then when did you first get your first full-time gig?
Well, you know how that goes in radio. You do a lot of different part-time gigs for the longest. And so I got a part-time promotions job in Atlanta, Georgia at a station that no longer exists called 95.5 The Beat. It was a rhythmic CHR station, and it was a blast. I had so much fun doing that. But while I was doing part-time promotions, I was just doing anything I possibly could to be a part of it. I never went home. They were like, get out of here. We can't pay you for this time. And I'm like, no, you don't have to pay me. I just want to be here. So I did everything possible, and they launched a morning show and let me become the morning show producer. And then I went back to promotions as a promotions director. So I would say my first full-time job was in the promotions department.
Oh, okay.
But then my first full-time on air and behind the scenes was in that morning show producer position. I was kind of moonlighting in Athens on the weekends and still doing some promotions. And I really always wanted to be on the air, but sometimes those positions weren't always available. So I just kept trying and kept going after it. And at that station, there had been a new program director, and he and I didn't really get along that well. He wanted things to go one way, and I was used to being there a long time before he got there and wanted things to go my way. So we butted heads a bit. And that's when I left for another opportunity to go work underneath Leslie Fram and Dylan Sprague over at Q100. And that's when I got another full-time on-air position, but it was kind of in part in promotions when I first started. So it was part promotions, part on-air, and then it eventually developed to a full-time on-air position with The Burt Show.
So The Burt Show, was it syndicated then when you got the job?
No, it was just getting off the ground and getting started. It had been on the air for maybe a year and a half, maybe 2 years when I joined. And I was there for 10 years.
Wow.
And yeah, it was like I grew up on the radio. It was like from, age 25 to 35. It was, living my life out on the air and being a part of that wild and crazy crew.
And then you eventually branched out, and from there you went where?
Well, from there, my life had changed a whole lot. When you're in top 40 radio and you're single and you're wild and you're crazy, it really fits, right?
Yeah.
It really works. But being on that show for 10 years, I had really grown up a lot. I had gotten married and divorced. And then by the end, I had gotten remarried and was expecting our first child.
Wow.
So I had just kind of grown to this place where I was like, I think I need to do something a little bit different. I felt like 10 years was a great bookend. I loved it. It was awesome. We did so many incredible things together. But the cast had changed quite a bit, and it was kind of just time for me to grow up and move forward and try something new. And so I stayed with Cumulus under the same umbrella and went to help them start their Nash brand. So I moved to country and worked at a sister station, Kicks 101.5, and did Middays, which really worked better for my health while having babies, to be able to sleep normal human hours and not morning show hours, as are kind of inhumane.
Oh yeah, it definitely it's you once you get used to it, it's fine, but it takes a toll on the body. I've never had to be pregnant while doing it, so I imagine it's a lot tougher.
So then I went to country for 3 years. And had my 2 kids. I have 2 little girls now, and they've grown up so much now. They're 7 and 4. And then after my stint in country, I had the opportunity to go to the radio station where I am now, which is WSTR in Atlanta, Star 94.1. It's a heritage hot AC. It's been the same format in this market for 30 some odd years, and it's a great place to land for the life that I lead now.
So you've been on Star 94.1 for how long now?
4 years.
4 years, okay. And did you start mornings there?
Yes. So back to the inhumane hours again.
Yeah, exactly. So you've had your kids, you're like, let's go back to being crazy. And
right.
Did
Well, here's the thing with Middays is that although it's a great time slot, you just can't connect as much. It's much more music driven. People are listening to the radio while they're working. They kind of want something in the background. And I was so used to, for 10 years, creating a lot of content, interviews and conversations and bits and funny things and stunts and, charity work and outreach and all this stuff. And that's what I really love the most about radio is that community connection. And so going to Middays, while it worked for my personal lifestyle, for my career aspirations, it just felt a little dull. Yeah. And it doesn't always have to be, but it depends on your format and it depends on your program director and it depends on the vibe of the radio station. But I just wanted to do more. And I think that in radio, typically morning drive is just going to give you the opportunity to do more.
And now, even on an AC station, are you still kind of allowed to have a full show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some music and some talk. So it's like it's a pretty good balance.
Okay. And did you start leading that show? Because I've seen, is it Jeff and Jenn is how you started there, and then now you're Jenn and Friends?
Yep, that is how we started.
Okay.
Yeah, so it started off with a partner. His name's Jeff Dollar, and he and I had worked together on the Burt Show for many years, and had the opportunity to start our new show in a new place and did that together. Unfortunately, that didn't work out the way that it was planned.
It happens. So now you are Jenn and Friends. How many friends do you have?
I have a lot of friends. No, the concept is to include the listeners in that as well, right?
Yeah.
But I have 2 male co-hosts, which is kind of an interesting swap to a lot of ways that morning shows are structured. But one's name is Mark Owens, and he and I worked together on the Burt Show many, many years ago. He was a behind-the-scenes producer, and then he went on to do all kinds of different formats, sports talk radio and different things, but was still in the market. And so he's joined me. And then a guy totally new to radio named Curtis Slade, who was an interior designer for 20 years with a big personality, but knew some folks in radio, and was able to carve out a space and have this gig. And now we're kind of this one crazy, mismatched, awesome family. It's really fun.
It's always nice when it comes together and you can get along with everyone, and you have like a family kind of feel to it. And not only do you do radio, you do TV as well. Do you do TV with friends, or is it just you?
So television is less and less now that I'm a mom and have kids. Radio is still my primary focus, but I've always dabbled in TV, and so I'll do regular appearances and regular appearances with Fox 5 Atlanta on different topics and subjects that are coming up. But right now, my primary focus is the morning show.
Okay. And you were just recently nominated for a Gracie. Did you get a Gracie?
Yes.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I know. I was very excited.
So for people that don't know, because I honestly didn't know what a Gracie was until I got the alert and I had to look it up. But what is a Gracie Award, and what did you get it for?
So there is a group called the Alliance for Women in Media, and they recognize women who are working in television, radio, and now all kinds of digital productions as well. And it's a way to lift one another up and have an awards where it's highlighting the work of women. And, like it is in a lot of different businesses, it's been imbalanced for many years. So I think they seek to balance the attention and highlight the work of women sort of forging their own path. And so the Gracie that I applied for and won, surprisingly, was for host of a local large market morning show, morning drive.
Okay. I feel like I saw somewhere else that this isn't your first Gracie. Did you get nominated for another one?
Yes, I won another one in the past for a feature. So you can submit work, kind of like the Emmy Awards, where people will just submit their work in all kinds of different categories. The Gracies are in the same way. So if you did a segment that you were really proud of, you could submit it under a certain type of segment. So there's news features or soft news features, or there's just a bunch of different categories. And then they line them up on whether you're on a nationally syndicated show, whether you're on a local show, whether you're in a small market, medium-sized market, or large market, because they want to give everybody the opportunity to compete. It's not just for big cities. It's not just for nationally syndicated shows that get a lot of attention. It's for everybody to be able to be recognized for their work.
What is the next step? You've got the morning show that you, other than the hours that you like. What do you want to do next?
Oh gosh. It's been under this name for just a year. We just celebrated 1 year as Jenn and Friends. So what I'd like to do is be able to continue to expand what we're doing in Atlanta and expand that reach. So a little bit of my story. My youngest daughter's name is Rhesus, and she's a cancer survivor. So when she was a little baby, she was diagnosed with a germ cell tumor. We got it with chemotherapy and surgery, and she's now a survivor, and we're doing great.
That's awesome.
But I feel really passionate about raising money for childhood cancer research and funding for these kids and raising awareness. So I'd love for our show to continue to expand our work in that area.
Okay.
And I would just love for our show to grow. We don't have, gangbuster ratings right now. We're still growing. We're in that new stage. People are still getting to know us as a show. I think they like us. I think it's growing, but I think to me, the short-term goal would be to continue to grow the show to a place that it does feel like we are everybody's friends. That's the goal, is that you turn on the radio to listen to your friends. It's a comfortable space, that it's an accepting space, that it's just a fun place to be when you're commuting to work in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, or getting the kids ready or whatever, or making your coffee and just kind of starting your day.
Tell me a little bit more about Rhesus Magic Fund.
So that raises funds specifically for research of her type of cancer. So when you go through something like this, or really like any sort of health scare in your life, whether that's with a parent or a child, you become all of a sudden an expert on things you had no idea you would be an expert on in your lifetime. You know, Rhesus' specific diagnosis is a sacrococcygeal teratoma. Okay.
Wow.
So try to write that on about 1,000 forms, right? But you become an expert on these things. And something that we learned going through it is that very little federal funding goes towards childhood cancers. Only 4% of federal funding is funding childhood cancer research. So that means our kids are getting treatment meant for adults. They're getting adult medicines made for adult bodies, just in smaller child sizes. We really need research for children. So not only we can beat their cancers, but they can have better outcomes. So even if a child beats cancer, they have long-term side effects from the chemotherapy treatments, whether that could be learning disabilities long-term brain damage, hearing damage is one of the biggest ones. So we learned so much about this. And I mean, we could talk for a full hour about childhood and research and everything else if you really want an earful another time. But,
or we can go to the website, which is...
Yes. Exactly. So on my website, jennhobby.com, is a full write-up on Rhesus Magic Fund, or you can go to rhesusfund.org and you can learn more about it there. But yeah, so it's a fund that sends research to her specific oncology doctor and the work that he does around the world. So MAGIC is an acronym for Malignant Germ Cell International Consortium. This means doctors on a Zoom call sharing all their stuff, but like a really high-tech doctor Zoom call, right? And so when back before the pandemic, when we could host events, we hosted a big event in Atlanta. We had doctors here from 6 different continents who were studying my daughter's case and other cases like hers to be able to share their treatment protocols and take it back to their countries. So doctors were here from Japan, Australia, Germany, the UK, India, and they're all studying these types of cancers and taking it around the world. So we felt really excited about being able to fund their meetings, their time together, their chance to share information and to really study these cases and improve the outcomes for these kids.
Wow, that's incredible. So if you want more information, jennhobby.com to get that. Is there anything that you want to, or that you've learned along the way that you would share with someone that maybe hasn't started out in radio or is getting started in radio? What's something that, like, the life lesson you got from radio so far?
Well, to me, you know, we were talking about this on our show when I won the Gracie Award. I was like, this is lovely, but the real story from me winning a Gracie Award is the lesson to just keep showing up. Just keep showing up and doing your best in your life. Because I haven't always gotten it right. I haven't made a lot of mistakes. Like, I haven't always made the right decisions or the right calls, but I haven't given up. And I just keep showing up and I just keep trying to do my best. That would be really the lesson that I would share, is be a good person to work with, like help your teammates, and just keep doing your best and put your audience at the center of what you do. You know, a lot of times in radio, people get into it and they're like, I'm funny, or I'm the star, and I'm what this is all about. And it's really not about you at all. It's not about the radio host or the radio show. It's really about the audience and what are you sharing from your life, or what are you sharing information or connection, or what are you doing to make their day better? And if you go into your day focused in that way, then you hear the show from the listener's perspective. You're not hearing it from your own perspective.
Yeah. How hard was Atlanta hit by COVID?
Pretty hard hit. We're a pretty big epicenter in the middle of the state of Georgia. There were some places that shut down sooner than others. South Georgia actually had a pretty bad outbreak from several funerals. But, kind of the same as everybody. You watch those numbers like uptick every single day. And it's just, I think everybody's just reeling with, how do you live through something that nobody has lived through in this lifetime? We can't say like we have through other tragedies going, well, this is what they did before.
Yeah.
Or this is what we did, even generations past we can look to say when they went through like national crisis, or what did we do on 9/11, or what did we do? Everybody remembers what radio did then, and how do you respond for your audience, and how do you be there? But for a pandemic, what? Nobody has a reference point for this. And it was this huge, steep learning curve on the technology. I mean, our company was like, go home and get out of the building. And we were like, what? How?
All my equipment's here.
Exactly. So it was a steep learning curve right off the bat of just trying to continue to do a show, connect with people, and figure out the technology side. But I think we're still rocking with that. And Entercom has asked us all to stay home until September 1st.
So last question. I always ask all the radio people, because it's a big radio discussion. What headphones do you swear by, and do you care?
Oh, gosh. I use Sony headphones, and I like them because they're just the most comfortable on my head.
Okay.
I tried in-ears for a long time, but I felt like there was a lot of pushing them in and out and in and out and in and out. So I wish I could wear in-ears because it would be better for hair.
Yeah.
But now that I'm working from home, most of the time my hair is in a top knot on top of my head anyway.
Yeah. We're going to talk to Jenn more about leading a morning show. We're going to get some more broken down tips on how you can begin this morning show and how to lead it, how to have a team around you, and who does what and things like that. So we're going to talk about that in this video. You can click that link and it'll send you that. But Jenn, thank you so much for taking the time and chat with me.
This was awesome. Thank you.